Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we're joined once again by Mark Gonzales over at First National Bullion. And remember under Biden, when Biden would say the economy's never been better, and everyone knew that that was nonsense, except for people on one side of the political agenda. Well, now on the other side of the political agenda, it's the same. We have people on the right now doing what they did under Biden on the left. Hey, everything's fine. There's no problems with the economy. And if you go to the grocery store, you feel a little bit differently. And people are still waiting for that wave of Trump's tariffs changing the day and fixing everything. The reality is the Federal Reserve still exists. The inflation rate is still skyrocketing. And we still have the issue of course, the $37 trillion debt, which isn't going to just be expunged. Wall Street panics as key inflation gauge suggests tariffs will wreak havoc on prices, says the Daily Mail. Core inflation rose to 2.9% last month, sending Wall Street into a spiral. Well, let's get it clear. First of all, yeah, that is an issue because it eventually, when it gets into the hands of the consumer, then we're going to see prices go up even more. But 2.9 is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. It's a joke. John Williams, Shadow Stats, has recently said in interviews that he believes that it's around 10% right now. And that makes perfect sense to me, honestly. And of course, he does run shadowstats.com, which has great alternative data, which goes by the original metric of calculating inflation from before the 1980s, which I find much more reasonable because it takes into account things that are, of course, necessities versus things that are wants, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, we've talked about this before. In the face of global food prices surging, we have major supply crunches, which add to it. And in the face of it, Americans are now taking drastic steps, according to the Daily Mail, to combat expensive cost of eating out, including nearly half of U.S. adults say they regularly order food from kids' menu when eating out. I have to say, I've done the same when things have been tight throughout the last year, especially. And I mean, it's a little embarrassing when you have to order macaroni and cheese at a nice restaurant. But the reality is people don't have money. People can't travel. We're seeing travel, destinations collapse right now. And restaurants are bringing back a 2008 era restaurant deal, which we saw a lot way back then. Of course, that recession never ended, but they're doing recession specials everywhere right now and bring in new economic menus for low cost items and everything that we, of course, see restaurants in desperation mode trying to bring people back as we see mass layoffs, including at grocery chains as well. A major grocery chain announces mass layoffs amid 60 store closures. Now, again, it's over 1,000 corporate Kroger employees. We've done videos on the retail apocalypse. That's in turn a part of inflation too, because people don't have money to buy things at those stores. Those stores can't make the profit they usually make. Therefore, they cannot employ as many people. And if they can't employ as many people, those unemployed end up unable to spend that money, and it goes in a circle. John Williams actually mentioned that unemployment is actually around 27%, but most people go by the employment rate instead of the labor force participation rate, which gives you a better idea. So that's the idea going forward. I urge people before we get into this with Mark, and this is a very important video, so I hope you stick around. I urge people to go and check out firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/ in the description and avoid the digital system that they will use to replace the manufacturer collapse of the economy with. Of course, insure your money versus the crisis. And you could buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium there. Hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system, and schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzales, and a complimentary investors package comes with that. Just let him know in the comments that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. Make sure to use that exact link. All right, Mark. So we have all of these telltale signs of not just like recession. I mean, we're looking at a depression really happening here across the board. So many people on the left previously said everything is great in the economy. And when everyone knew it wasn't, gas prices aren't, there's not an issue with gas prices under Biden when they obviously were really extremely high and skyrocketing. And then, of course, under Trump, we have the exact same thing. We have, the economy's never been better. Really? Because I don't know. I'm looking at people unable to afford things, recession specials at grocery stores and or at restaurants, and massive closures across the board because no one can afford to go out and spend money. What do you think is happening right now?
Okay, well, first of all, let's at least make a comment regarding Biden and Trump. Biden says this, Trump says this, right, left. They're both the different wings of the same bird, but they're controlled by the one brain, right? That's why they're called left wing and right wing. Yeah. There, there is no difference other than appearance. The agenda is still pushed through by those that put them in power. As far as the inflation, man, I could go on forever about this topic, but I'm a big fan of John Williams. I have been for a while. I subscribe to his newsletter. He actually got really, really well known because he's been reversing the imputations of government data. So in inflation is categorized and calculated by 4 different matrix. You got substitution, subtraction, hedonics, and weighting. Substitution, you're used to filet mignon and lobster, but things get tight and you go to hot dogs and fish sticks. Well, fish and meat. So equivalent the same, it's a push. Subtraction, food, energy, the recalculation of homes. Hedonics, for the pleasure of, essentially, if you have an iPhone that's selling for $2,000 one year and it's $2,000 the next year, but the new model, year issued model is 20% faster on the processing, that's a benefit that you didn't pay for. So that $2,000 phone will be discounted when it goes to inflation by a factor of 0.2. So it goes on the books of less, even though you spent the money. And then what you borrow from once, again, accounting, this is all accounting gimmicks. It's fucking nuts. When you borrow from one, you give it to the other. So opposite GDP is a bullshit lie, as well. So let's say that, a sporting goods store, globally, let's say Sports Authority revamps their operating system, their computers, their POS, something more efficiently that has it operate 10% faster. Okay, well, even though it's human input for the data to go into the 10% faster processing, if the company generates, let's say, $100 billion a year, then that is ratcheted up for the GDP number by a factor of 10. So you're reducing the inflation number, and you're jumping up the other measure for inflation is weighting. Simple way to explain that is you're weighting the influence or predominant marker of one basket of items to gauge inflation as covering, let's say, 20, 30, 40% of the whole number when it comes to food, because that item hasn't lifted higher in price. So that's kind of what it is. John Williams got his big notoriety, sorry, can't talk today, but he got that when companies started calling upon him to develop for their business models what they were missing, because they're scaling their projected growth and they're putting this information out to their shareholders, but it's all based on government data, and they were off every single time. Why? Because the government adjusted. So yes, inflation is ratcheted up to actually about 10%. Do not believe the headline numbers. GDP is way lower than it is, and unemployment is way higher than it is. So if you're not a fan or a subscriber of John Williams, get a subscription. It's really not that much money, and you can follow that to find out how he's reversed and put these all back to where it was scheduled appropriately.
Well, I want to point out, we especially with employment. Now, this is a circular thing because obviously when businesses can't make money because no one has money, then therefore they have to lay off. And if they lay off, then the people that are laid off have a hard time making money. So then they can't spend more money, and it goes in a circle. And then they come in with AI to replace everyone. And then everyone's on universal basic income, which is what Elon Musk was saying. Don't worry, 42% of jobs will be AI soon, but don't worry, you'll have universal basic income and you will own nothing and you'll be happy. Basically, the World Economic Forum viewpoint. And on top of that, also this idea of, it's Yuval Noah Harari's dream. He said, I dream of a world where people are placated on drugs, playing video games, basically complacent, doing nothing. This is a real thing that they are pushing forward. It lacks humanity. And of course, with employment, one of the things I've noticed is for years, every president claims they're destroying unemployment. It's such nonsense. Bush did it. Obama did it. Trump did it in his first term. And people will say, well, there was some more employment under the first term for Trump. Sure. But a lot of it was actually governmental sector. And of course, there's a lot to be said about that. But again, the main thing you have to look at is instead of the employment rate, which is a totally sham number. You have to look at labor force participation rate, which can actually calculate, because a lot of people are considered no longer unemployed after looking for a job for a short amount of time. They are put on welfare, and in many cases they're considered employed, but they're taking taxpayer money. I mean, the way they measure employment rates are complete nonsense. So we're dealing with a much bigger situation. And the recession, when we see these recession specials at these businesses, I want to point out that the recession in 2008 never ended. It was just papered over. And now we're dealing with something far bigger, because the more you pump up a bubble that keeps trying to burst, and then you keep putting bubble gum on it to stop it from blowing up, eventually it's going to weaken even more and gain more momentum. But eventually, when it blows up, it's going to be a worse problem than before. So again, and it's going to heavily affect the markets. And we're already seeing a lot of panic on Wall Street over this inflation, what they found with their inflation gauge. I would really recommend people look at ways to ensure their wealth right now, because if you're just going to hope that things aren't going to be good with the dollar. Everyone knows it's not going to, the dollar isn't going to magically repair itself, being a fiat system in the first place, which is always doomed to fail, always has, always will fail. It's not going to magically find some way to gain momentum and take off and be super prosperous in the future. Let's be real. Fiat currencies always revert to zero. People need to get out. If they have all this money in the bank, I urge people to really consider putting a huge amount of that into something that ensures their wealth. And of course, on top of that, I would also urge people to understand that keeping your money in the bank is extremely dangerous these days. Basel III put out this idea for 63 central banks to, back in last year, we reported on it, that they can bail in your money at any point and just take the money out of your bank. So it's, to me, it's a no-brainer. But what do you think, Mark? I mean, patching up the issues here of all these problems that are accumulating at the same time, wealth insurance, it's obvious.
100% obvious. Now, my take, and this should be yours too. Precious metals, they are the actual money. They are the concrete money of the world, and have been for a very, very long time. Everything else has just been the counting measure of it. So we've created the system where the Federal Reserve can create something of value that has no value inherent to itself. Yet, an ounce of gold is still buying the same goods and services since it was circulated at a $20 gold piece. It actually just a little bit over an ounce. The 64 quarters still buys a gallon of gas. So to put it in perspective, if you've gone grocery shopping, you've filled up your tank, you've done all these things, paid car insurance, paid your electric bill, inflation's not 4%. There's no way in hell it can be. So we're talking 10%, and that is going to rise as well. So whether you have $1 million in the bank or $50,000 in the bank, make $50,000 a year or $250,000 a year, you are losing 10% of your purchasing power every single year. And that is only going to scale and grow. So why wouldn't you be proactive and take out at least that delta that you're going to lose? Okay. If you make $100,000 a year, then you put $10,000 into precious metals, let that grow. At least it offsets your inflation. Now, I think you should go way deeper than that, because we are hitting a point for gold and silver to hit the next run up. And a lot of people don't follow it like I do, but gold's currently breaking out of a pennant flag formation, and the breakout number is right about where we're at, about 3430, 3450. And this pennant has been seen 4 times in the last 10 months. And every single time it has compositionally grown higher once it broke out. So there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to see the next move in metals. And now that silver is a critical metal, we're going to see a lot of demand for that. Silver breaks $40. I said it breaks 35. You're going to see it move. It's going to break 40. When it happens, it hits 42. Those are the 2 resistance, and then sky's the limit all the way to 50. There's not a lot of resistance in there. So I would say people should be definitely proactive, because you don't want to be reverted, I guess, to getting your macaroni at a nice restaurant, even though macaroni and cheese, if you want to eat it, that's fine. It's good stuff. But you still want to have the lifestyle you are accustomed to, or at least have the ability to have it if you want. And again, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Eventually, life has a way of making a decision for you, right? If you don't act on your own free will out of a place of confidence and strength and motivation, life will hit you hard. there will be a point where it's going to be harder to find gold and silver. It's just not going to be enough available. And now you're going to have to outbid the next guy. So you're going to see these premiums rise, and delivery delays are going to be extensive. And I've seen this before. So don't be the last one in line. Reach out to me. Let's have a conversation, and let's get on the metal train before it starts to take off.
And with that said, my friends, let's bring that up one more time here. Over at firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. There you can go and work with Mark and, of course, avoid the calamities to come, which are unavoidable if you stay put and do nothing. So I urge people to at least take action here. And there you could buy physical gold or silver, put it in your hand, put it in a vault, put it in an IRA. Again, as I said many times before, outside of the traditional IRA system, which I think could be pretty risky going into the future with a lot of what we're seeing on the markets. Schedule a consultation. You'll get it for free with Mark Gonzales when you sign up, and a complimentary investor package. Again, in the comments of the form when you sign up, make sure to let him know that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. And again, that link is in the description. I think this is good for everyone, and I hope people take it seriously going forward, because this is all about solutions to real problems. People say, "Oh, well, doom and gloom all the time." No, we're talking about something that's a reality, and we want to make sure that you guys have real solutions so that you can help yourself and actually be able to prosper in life, rather than be left behind with everyone else, no matter how awake you are. If your money's all stuck in the bank, it's all fiat, you don't have any insurance on it, you're going to be stuck in the same bread lines with the lemmings later on. So regardless of how awake you are, you need to take actual solutions seriously, because this isn't about being angry. This is about having solutions and being happy and feeling free, because we actually went and did something for ourselves to make ourselves feel, and not just feel, but actually be free and prosper in the face of unprecedented changes that we've never seen before in modern history. So again, I urge people to check that link below. Do not depend on your bank. Do not depend on some guy in a suit over at some big bank who's going to be your financial advisor and tell you, don't do that, you should invest in 10-year treasuries or something like that. You guys have to actually take things into your own hands. There's a good chance that you know more than these financial advisors. I mean, I think there's a very good chance you do, especially if you watch us here at World Alternative Media. But again, that link is in the description. Take heed of the caution. Hope that everyone goes and checks it out. And also, if you do send a message to Mark, and if for whatever reason you don't hear back, make sure to look in your junk folder, because who knows, sometimes emails might show up in places like that, and keep checking back. But anyway, until next time, thanks, Mark, for going into this with us. We appreciate it as always. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and Mark Gonzales signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.